Friends, this is a continuation of previous video on history of Indian National Congress. It's a series in the second video. We are continuing with what we left. Before formation of Indian National Congress, India witnessed various indigenous movements throughout the country. For example, Indian Association based in Bengal, Pune Sarvajanik Sabha in Maharashtra, Madras Mahajana Sabha in present Chennai, then it was called Madras. Pune Sarvajanik Sabha formed in 1867 at Pune by Mahadev Govind Ranade, Ganesh Vasudev Joshi, S.F.H. Chiplankar. It served both social and political reform movements. It produced various leaders like later days in Balaganga Tilak, Gopala Krishna Gokhale, etc. in Maharashtra. In 1884, Madras Mahajana Sabha was formed for the similar cause, that is for social reforms and political reforms. Madras Mahajana Sabha was formed by P. Anandacharlu, G. Subramania Iyer and M. Veeraraghavacharya. At the same time, in 1885, Indian National Congress was formed. Before that, in 1883, Alan Octavian Hume, a retired civil servant in Calcutta, wrote a letter to University of Calcutta students. It's an open letter for the need for a national political organization to represent British government to address Indians' issues. The outcome was that in 1885, December 28th, there were 72 delegates met at Bombay, formed Indian National Congress. The Congress met till 31st December. The Congress elected first President W.C. Banerjee, that is Umesh Chandra Banerjee, as a president, Alan Octavian Hume, an Irish retired British civil servant, as a general secretary. During first Indian National Congress, that was in 1885, between December 28th to 31st December, there were two more British participated, Wedderburn and Sir John Jordan, who were Scottish civil servants. They were also participated in the first Indian National Congress. The other important leaders in the Congress were Badruddin Tyabji, Farosho Mehta, Dadabhai Nauroji, Surendranath Banerjee, Subramania Iyer, etc. This phase, that is early phase of the Indian National Congress, the leaders followed petition and prayer. That was their methodology. Mainly, they focused on more representation in the British governance. For example, they demanded more membership in the Executive Council, which part of the Viceroy administration. They also demanded equal treatment of Indians and British in the Indian Army, more representation in the Indian civil service. In this phase, Western education was focused, it also brought more rationalist thinking in the social field. Social reform was the primary objective of the most of the nationalist leaders. The rise of Indian nationalism started in 1885 onwards. Bengal became an important ground for the Indian nationalist movement. Most of the nationalist leaders were running newspapers or weekly or fortnights. For instance, Bala Gangadhar Tilak was running Kesari Maratha. Dadabhai Nauroji started in 1854 Rashtra Koftar. It is an Anglo-Gujarati newspaper focusing on Parsi reforms and political reforms. Dr. Madan Mohan Malaviya was running Hindustan. At the same time, in 1868, in Bengal, Amrita Bazar Patrika started by brothers called Shishir Kumar Ghosh and Motilal Ghosh. It was a fiery newspaper, took on British government's policies. Similarly, in the south, the Hindu was founded by a group of young activists like G. Subramaniaya, S. Subramaniaya in 1878. These efforts by the nationalist leaders brought young leaders in the nationalist movement. Like Bipin Chandra Pal in Calcutta, Lala Lajpat Rai in Punjab, Bala Gangadhar Tilak in Maharashtra, V.O. Chidambaram Pillai in Madras presidencies. These were known as extremists. Usually 1885 to 1905, the phase of Indian National Congress or early freedom movements called moderate phase. Those leaders like Gopalakrishna Gokhale, Mahadev Govind Ranade, Dadabhai Nauroji, who are believed in petitions and prayer, who are also loyalists of British rule, at the same time demanding more Indian representation in the British governance. It frustrated the youngsters in the nationalist movements. So they were youngsters were demanding a more aggressive fighting or struggle against British rule. For instance, Bala Gangadhar Tilak proclaimed, "Swaraj is my birthright and I shall have it." It's a famous slogan who uttered in the court during his trial. So Swaraj was the ultimate thing for Tilak. Similar view also shared by like Lala Lajpat Rai, Bipin Chandra Pal. These Lal, Pal, Bal is a trio in the nationalist movement. Since Bengal became a hotspot of nationalist movement, leaders like Bankim Chandra Chatterjee, his famous novel called Anand Mat, in his novel, the song called Vande Mataram became a mantra of nationalist movement. A person like Rabindranath Tagore also played a crucial role during early freedom struggle. Hence, British thought to suppress this movement, they followed a strategy called divide and rule. Bengal those days covered part of Bihar, the present day of Orissa, and part of Assam, also now the present day of Bangladesh. Hence, the British government decided to divide Bengal to weaken the nationalist movement. In 1905, Lord Curzon brought a plan to divide Bengal East and West Bengal. The East Bengal majority of the population are Muslims. The western part of the Bengal majority of the populations are belong to Hindus. Instead of dividing the Bengal in geographically, they divide the Bengal in religious base, so that the division could happen in Indian society. Then it was easier to suppress the nationalist movement. So Bengal partition once again became a focal point for the nationalist movement. This gave a opportunity to start Swadeshi or boycott. It's a famous movement which also motivated most of the Indians to participate in the national struggle. They boycotted foreign goods, they promoted nationalistic goods. So it's called Swadeshi, and boycotting the British goods. The shops were boycotted which were selling foreign clothes or goods. Foreign clothes were burned in publicly. So this nationalist agitation brought wrath of the British government. In these days, British government encouraged Muslims to have their own organizations. In 1906, British encouraged some of the Muslims. So Muslims were formed called Muslim League to represent their views and ideas. These leaders generally thought Indian National Congress becoming a more of Hindu oriented or representing more Hindus. They were not representing the views of the Muslims. Thus another political organization emerged in the subcontinent. Between 1885 to 1905, during this early freedom struggle of India, the leaders were opposing economic drain of India. Among them, Dadabhai Nauroji was known as Grand Old Man of India, opposed vehemently. Economic drain went to England in the form of salaries of British civil servants, soldiers, and other officials. British government also taxed Indians, especially for British campaign in Afghanistan. There are other taxes also levied on people like salt tax, property tax. Economic drain made India more poor and poorer. Thus, the leaders were insisting on economic self-reliance of India and also opposed the drain. During this time, persons like Sir Syed Ahmad Khan, who advocated Western education among Muslim community, he founded Mohammedan Anglo-Oriental College at Aligarh. Later on, this college became a Aligarh Muslim University. This was the place gave opportunity for the Muslims to learn higher education. Similarly, within the Congress, the division between moderates and extremists widened. Slowly, Congress was moving to vertical split. For instance, Balagangadhar Tilak and his followers were not admitted in the Congress. At the same time, India was witnessing formation of militant movements in the struggle.